137 meters long, 23 meters wide, 3 full decks. Scripture gives the dimensions with precision, yet it never explains the method. It doesn't tell you how to bring down trees as tall as buildings, how to drag multi-ton logs without cranes, how to join massive beams without iron nails, how to waterproof a structure so huge that not even a single drop finds its way inside. Noah was given the command, but turning that command into reality, that part he had to figure out. For decades, Noah and his sons woke up to the same impossible mission: build the largest vessel the world had ever seen without a manual, without training, without anyone to teach them. And every day, people walked by and laughed. Because how do you build a ship when you don't even live near the sea? How do you construct something no one has ever built when all you have is faith and basic tools? It sounds ridiculous. But Noah didn't have the option to quit. God said, "Build an ark." He didn't say where, didn't explain how to choose the site. He didn't provide blueprints, only measurements and the command to obey. So Noah likely did what any builder would do. He looked around and thought, I need space. Real space. Because 137 meters is larger than a football field. And 23 meters wide means you can't squeeze this into some narrow patch of land before the first tree fell. The first job was the ground. Finding the right place wasn't a minor decision, it was everything. Flat land, firm soil, massive clearance, not near unstable hillsides that could collapse, close enough to forests that transporting timber wouldn't be impossible, near fresh water for daily survival, yet not so close that seasonal flooding would destroy the work. And once the spot was chosen, the brutal labor began. Leveling, clearing stone, removing roots, compacting earth so it wouldn't sink under a structure that heavy. No machines, no trucks, just picks, shovels, and time. Then there's another enemy of construction: rain. A poorly prepared site turns into a swamp the moment storms hit. Tools sink, timber absorbs moisture, wood begins to rot. Work stops. So Noah probably dug drainage channels and trenches around the perimeter, guiding water away so the ground stayed usable even during heavy weather. While he dug and sweated and prepared, people passed by. Some laughed loudly, others shook their heads. A man preparing a giant foundation for a ship far from any ocean? To them, it was madness. But they missed the point. Noah wasn't building for the world they knew. He was building for the world that was about to be erased. Weeks passed, maybe months. The site was ready, flat, firm, drained. And now the real challenge began. How do you gather enough timber to build something the size of a multi-storied building? Mature cypress takes decades, sometimes longer, to reach full strength. Thick trunks, heavy cores, massive weight. To build a 137-meter vessel, you're not cutting down a few trees. You're bringing down hundreds, possibly thousands. And felling a giant tree with primitive tools isn't like chopping firewood. Bronze dulls quickly. You strike the same cut again and again. Wood chips fly, arms burn, hands blister, blood mixes with dust. Hours go by, and you're still nowhere near halfway through the trunk. So 2 men likely worked together, alternating strikes to keep rhythm. And when the tree finally began to give, the most dangerous moment arrived. Where does it fall? A 20-meter tree falling the wrong way can kill instantly. It can smash other trees and get trapped. It can split on impact and become useless. So Noah and his sons likely used wedge cuts to guide the fall. They may have tied ropes high up to control direction pulling as the trunk leaned. And when it finally crashed down with a sound that shook the forest, that wasn't the end. That was the beginning. Because now you had to move a log the size of a bus. Without wheels, a mature cypress trunk could weigh several tons. On the forest floor, it's like a monument, too heavy to budge. The most realistic method is the same principle ancient civilizations used: wooden rollers. You cut smaller logs, place them under the main trunk, tie ropes to the front, and pull. As the log rolls forward, you take the rollers from behind and move them to the front again and again. Slow, brutal, exhausting. But there's a complication that makes everything worse. Uneven ground. Rolling weight across flat land is hard enough. Across slopes, rocks, valleys, it becomes deadly. A runaway log down a hillside turns into a weapon. It can crush workers. It can slam into stone and crack. It can tumble into ravines and be lost. So before transporting timber, Noah likely had to build the road itself, clearing paths, leveling terrain, removing boulders, widening trails. More time, more labor, more pain. And another question appears. Manpower. Even with rollers, you need many hands pulling at once. Noah had 3 sons, 4 men total. Could they do all this alone? Hard to believe. It's possible they hired local labor people who needed work, even if they didn't understand the purpose. Not everyone cares why a job exists if it puts food on the table. Every log delivered to the site represented days of strained broken ropes, injuries, accidents, maybe even deaths. While some boards were stacked and left to dry with airflow between them, Noah kept returning to the forest for more. A cycle that seemed endless, until the build reached a stage that would test true engineering skill, raising the structure without collapse. How do you lift a 3D egg vessel without it tipping, twisting, or sinking into the ground before it's finished? It starts with something most people never think about: the keel, the central backbone beam that everything depends on. Without it, the ark is just a pile of planks. But the keel for this ark would need to span 137 meters. No single tree is that long. So Noah likely had to join massive beams end to end, creating one continuous spine. Each joint had to be flawless, interlocking woodwork, tight-fitting joins, hardwood pegs driven in to lock it in place. Because if the keel fractured, the entire ark would fail with it. Then came the ribs, the curved structural beams forming the hull. But how do you bend thick wood without snapping it? Heat and steam. Warm it slowly until it becomes flexible. Shape it gradually. Hold it in place until it cools and hardens. Slow, delicate work. One cracked rib could mean weeks lost. Now, scale that up. Dozens of huge ribs, evenly spaced, aligned perfectly, off by a few degrees, and the whole frame becomes twisted, unstable, uneven. So Noah likely used stretched ropes as guides, careful markings, plumb lines, weights on cords to verify vertical alignment. And even with all that, setting multi-ton beams into place required levers, primitive pulleys, synchronized pulling, pure coordinated force. And there's another key detail: diagonal bracing. Cross beams forming triangles. Why triangles? Because triangles resist deformation better than any other basic shape. They don't fold the way rectangles do. So the ark's internal skeleton likely became a web of interlocked timber designed to spread weight and resist pressure. And once the frame stood towering, and Rialno would probably realize the next step would decide everything. Waterproofing. Because 1 week, seam could drown everyone inside. The solution? Pitch. Plant resin boiled down into thick, sticky, dangerous paste, hot, toxic, hard to work with. And scripture is specific: coat it inside and outside. Outside alone isn't enough. Water finds pathways. It creeps into joints. It rots wood from within. So every surface had to be sealed from both directions. But think about applying pitch inside a giant closed structure: dark compartments, limited airflow, toxic fumes concentrated until breathing becomes difficult. Working inside would mean constant breaks: step out to breathe, step back in, apply more, step out again. Hands burned, skin irritated, clothes ruined. And it wasn't one layer, multiple coats. Let it dry, inspect seams. Re-upply repeat. Weeks, maybe months. And until the ark floated, you wouldn't truly know if the sealing worked. So every coat was an act of craftsmanship and an act of faith. When the final layer cured, the ark was sealed. Now came another massive challenge. Organizing the interior. Thousands of animals would live inside for over a year. Without structure, it would become chaos. The text hints at compartments, small separated spaces like cells or nests. Because without separation, animals fight. Predators attack prey. Disease spreads. Panic multiplies. So each kind needed its own space walls between them. Controlled movement, but building internal walls isn't simple. Every wall adds weight. Every wall changes load distribution. So the most practical approach would be strategic placement. Heaviest animals on the lowest decalaphons, rhinos, hippos keeping the center of gravity low to reduce tipping. Medium animals on the second deck, horses, bears, lions. Smaller creatures and birds above lightweight and easier to manage. But there's another issue people rarely consider. Waste. Thousands of animals produce waste daily. Without drainage, the ark becomes a toxic disaster. Disease would kill them before the flood ever ended. So there may have been sloped channel grooves in the flooring directing liquids toward collection points. Possibly openings near the lower sides that could release waste once floating. Simple, but functional. And then ventilation. A single opening at the top wouldn't be enough for 3 full decks. Without airflow, heat and gases would build up, animals would suffocate, people would collapse. So there may have been protected side vents openings, designed with overhangs to block rain while still allowing air circulation. Then food storage. A full year of supplies for thousands of creatures means tons of hay, grain, dried fruit, organized for access but protected from moisture. When the interior was finished, Noah hadn't built a boat. He had built something closer to a floating survival system. And still, one crucial component remained: the door. The entrance couldn't be small. Giraffes needed clearance. Elephants needed space. Animals of every size had to pass through. So it was a huge opening. But the larger the opening, the weaker the structure becomes. A giant doorway in a wall that must withstand water pressure from every direction is an engineering vulnerability. So placement mattered. The text places the door on the side knot, the front or backhand. That makes sense. Side walls distribute stress more evenly. Side entry also helps balance movement during loading. But a door like that would require heavy reinforcement textura beams. Thicker framing, stronger joints compensating for the weakness created by the gap. And there's an interesting detail. Scripture doesn't describe Noah locking it. It says God shut the door. Meaning Noah built the structure trusting that the final ceiling enclosure would not rely on human strength alone. Still, the edges needed perfect sealing. Extra pitch. Maybe plant fibers soaked in resin, acting like an ancient gasket compressing when the door closed to prevent leaks. And instead of metal hinges, a wooden pivot system may have been used to reinforce vertical axis, allowing the door to swing. When the door was installed, tested, sealed, the ark was complete. Decades of labor, thousands of hours, mountains of wood shaped into something that defied logic. But now came the strangest parts, something no builder could plan or control. Animals began to arrive. How do you test a vessel like this without water? You don't. It was built on dry land, far from any body of water large enough. So the work depended on measurement, experience, and trust that the proportions given by God would hold. Noah could only do final inspections, walk the decks, check joints, search for hairline gaps that appeared as pitch dried. He could press on walls, listen to beams, test for nausea. He may have slowly loaded supplies, grain sacks, hay bundles, water jars, watching how the structure responded under increasing weight. Because stressed wood speaks, it creaks, it groans, it warns. And if something was wrong, he would hear it. Then, the real surprise, the animals. They came on their own, 2 by 2, not hunted, not dragged, not forced. Imagine it. Creatures arriving from every direction as if guided. Predators walking beside prey without violence. Birds circling and settling near the entrance. Reptiles sliding forward in silence. All converging on one place like an invisible command was pulling them in, and the detail that seals the moment, each animal went to its place without confusion. No chaos, no fighting. As if they already knew where they belonged. This wasn't merely a human project anymore. When the last animals entered, Noah went in with his family, 8 people in total. And then what was written happened. God shut the door. Construction ended. And the real test began.